Today's module is going to focus on HR management, particularly around staffing and the people that we employ within our organization. So you may often hear, if you haven't already, you'll definitely hear it when you start to work out in the field, that people are not only our most important assets to an organization, but they are our most expensive. So when you think about the structure of your organization, the natural question you need to ask yourself is, as a leader in that supervisory managerial role, is, who's really caring for the patients of your organization? Is it the building, the equipment, the medicine? And obviously the answer to those questions is no. It's the people that you employ for your organization, and they really set the tone and the culture of how your organization operates and the environment they operate in. So when if we think about this from a business perspective, who's our customer? Our customer is the patient, and we want to make sure that we are very customer and patient-centered, very customer-centric. So when our patients and our customers are saying that they were provided good care, it's not the building that provided the care or the medicine that provided the care. They're talking about the people, saying that the people provided that great level of care. And the best form of marketing is through word of mouth. So we want to make sure that we see customer service and care as one and the same. So it's important that we kind of take this focus on staffing and of the people that we employ within our organization, and how we work to kind of start hiring those people into our organization. Now, depending on the size of the organization you work for is going to depend on your human resource management kind of department and level and structure and function overall. So if you're working for a smaller organization, you may have one person that does all those key functions and job-specific tasks that were mentioned on the previous slide. So you're going to have one person, that does the payroll and the benefits and the hiring and the firing and the keeping up with the records and the time and things like that. Now, when you start to get out and branch out into larger organizations, you will start to see where these kind of functions are departmentalized. So you're going to have a payroll department, you're going to have a benefits department, you're going to have a onboarding department, you're going to have a record department. So the larger your organization gets, the more people you're going to need working in this HR management function. So why would we think the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, or the BLS, would even have a job classification system? And the reason they do is really for the protection of the worker. So the BLS dictates if a position is considered a professional position or not, or in other words, a salary versus a non-salary position. And that's for the protection of the worker, to make sure that they're getting compensated appropriately to what their job is listed and classified at. So in healthcare, we know if you already work in the industry, or if you're about to kind of start your venture out into the healthcare industry, you'll find that in healthcare in particular, it's very difficult to find the right employee to represent our organization, because we want to be very particular and very selective, because that person that we're going to hire is definitely going to be integral to the success or the failure of our organization. And we want to make sure that we hire people that are, for lack of a better term, are good fits for our organization. And how we do that, and how we kind of find the skills that we're looking for and the personalities that we're looking for are a couple things mentioned on this slide in terms of, building relationships, having temporary employee pools, and offering incentives, employment incentives, to our current employees and to our prospective employees. We may offer things like referral bonuses. So if I have a nurse that can refer a nurse to our organization that's a good fit and they stay X amount of months, I'll give the new nurse and the referral nurse maybe a $500 bonus apiece. So you can do things like this to encourage, like-minded people that are good fits for your organization to start to naturally come to you. But a couple things you want to be careful of, particularly around these hiring bonuses. You definitely don't want to give that impression of desperation. So you don't want to seem like you're desperate to hire people in, because that too kind of gives a feeling of the culture and the tone of your organization. But when you do decide to start offering things like referral bonuses, you can structure them in a way that'll definitely be beneficial and kind of ensure that people are in there for the long haul. So you could offer a $2,000 sign-on bonus, but extend that maybe over a length of time where you're giving maybe $500 every 6 months that they're there with satisfactory performance. Or you could give the money up front with a commitment that they'll stay X amount of years, and if they don't, they have to pay back that sign-on bonus. Just a couple ways that you can kind of go about this hiring bonus technique. So a couple things we want to be careful with in terms of outsourcing. Just to understand outsourcing or using traveling companies, particularly with more clinical roles like nurses and techs. We want to be careful here because these assignments for these particular individuals are usually short, generally about 3 months, and they're not generally, now I don't want to categorize everyone like this, but generally these positions are not going to be as committed to the people who are there full-time working for you and not part of this outsourcing. We generally don't see them as committed to the organization as your other workers. And you need to be careful with the expense of outsourcing, which is something that's not listed on this slide that really should be here. So let's say, just realizing how expensive outsourcing can be. So let's say for an LPN nurse, a regular full-time nurse, LPN hired in to the organization itself and not through a traveling company makes about $15, on the higher end, maybe $20 an hour. Now the outsourcing LPNs that come in, they're on the higher end of the scale where you're paying $25 to $30, sometimes $35 an hour, depending on the assignment. And then, let's look at RNs who make up the mass majority of our workforce for a hospital. Typical RN gets paid between $20, $30 an hour. And when we start to bring in these outsourced or these traveling nurses, we're looking upwards of $40 to $50 an hour to cover their salary to be at our organization. So when we start to think about, pay raises, how much we're paying employees, here's a quick way to do the math on how much you're really paying out. Now realize that this $26 an hour, that's a base pay that's not taking into account your expense that's tied to the benefits for those employees. So let's say in this example, $26, benefits adds about an extra 18%. So we're really looking at about $30, $31 extra. Now when you multiply that out we'll say 40 hours a week times 52 weeks is going to give us about 2,000 hours a year across our 15 employees. If we keep it at $26 an hour, we're looking at about $811,000. Now again, that's not taking into account the benefits. If we look at the benefits, we're looking more along the lines of $957,000, $58,000 per year for these 15 employees. So it's just, a quick way to do the math to really kind of figure out exactly how much you're paying and what your expenses look like. I'm going to scroll through the next couple slides, but as far as the lecture goes, we're going to end here. If you have any questions, please let me know.